Welcome to another adventure of Look and You. After commencing in May heading up the coast, it was time to turn around again and head back down, past all the places that we know and love.
Morning, Skipper. What are our plans today?
Well, we overnighted at Dunk Island and we're going to sail down to Palm Island. Not a lot of wind today, but we're motor sailing down, and we're going to be at Casement Bay because the wind's going to get up from the southeast overnight, so it'll be nice and protected. And then we're going to have to bash down into Maggie in the morning.
Well, that sounds like a great plan.
Thought we'd have to bash into the weather, and we sure did. We made it to Magnetic Island for a brief stay to repair our lazy jack lines, with help from Luke off Blinder. We winched him up our mast to retrieve the jack lines, and then we were able to tie them off. It was also during the storm that we noticed that the batten had detached itself from the car on our mast, so that had to be repaired as well. We soon set off again south past Cape Bowling Green for an overnighter stay at Cape Upstart, and then onwards to Cape Gloucester. We had beautiful sailing conditions along the way, which really pleased us. We stopped off at Pioneer Bay at Airlie Beach to reprovision before our next longest stay being the Keppel Islands.
Won't you miss the ones you know? I'll be here.
Our next stop was Thomas Island. It was only a 27 nautical mile trip from Airlie Beach. We had fairly blustery conditions, but nevertheless we enjoyed it. We met up with some other like-minded yachties and we had a quick game of petanque, an overnight stay before we headed off to Keswick Island. We sailed to Keswick Island and then on to Percy Island where it was overcast. We planned to sail to Port Clinton the following day, a beautiful 64 nautical mile trip. We had the latest weather report that said we had a lovely 9-knot nor'easter all the way with 1 metre easterly swell. Perfect, well so we thought. We left around 5 a.m. along with several other vessels. The sky was grey and it didn't feel like a nice sailing day.
Once we got out past Percy, we soon found out that the weather forecast was absolutely incorrect. It was nothing like a 15-knot nor'easter, it was a 30-knot southerly.
Yeah, it was quite scary at first and later on it became quite terrifying. Once I started hearing people talk on the radio about turning back and about the conditions that they were experiencing.
We have a look on the radar and it looked like maybe the rain might abate a bit and maybe the Bureau of Meteorology might have got it right, but they didn't get it right and it didn't get any better. And I guess we got a long way into it and we had to stick with it.
Yeah, there was one part of me wanted to go back and just go with the current and hide away from it. But the other part of me, I still wanted to head to Port Clinton.
But it became pretty clear when we were doing about 1.5 knots into the 30-knot southerly and big seas that we weren't going to make it to Port Clinton. So we're on our radio talking to our friends on Pacific Dreams and we decided to try and head to Hunter Island and get out and sit out the storm for a little while and then try again the next day.
Yeah, so that ended up taking us 5 hours of being caught in this awful storm. We were hit on the beam many times and just pushed around, and going straight down into the trench and coming back up and over, and the rain and just the whole experience was not very pleasant at all. And our friends, as I mentioned earlier, they had alarms going off on their boat, and they radioed through and said that they had water in one of their engine bays, which was quite scary because they had 4 people on board. It was just only Peter and I on our boat, and we just wanted to get a bit closer to them just in case something awful happened, but we couldn't even do that with trying to get across.
Every time we'd try and sort of turn around and get across further to the starboard, we'd be hit by the waves, and so we had to sort of stay banging straight on into it until we finally were able to get the mainsail down and were actually able to then get across the starboard just with the headsail out and make it all the way into Hunter Island.
And what a relief that was to get into Hunter Island. I could have stayed there for a whole week after those 5 hours in that storm.
But we got up the next day and we got underway, and it was a lot better conditions, and so we headed all the way down to Port Clinton, and that's another story.
Yep.
Getting the stretcher out on Lookamoo was fantastic. We didn't have it last year and it made a lot of difference this year.
What do I believe? What makes me feel it to write you this song? 2 hours a day, 5 months and a year. Oh, I loved you too long.
made it into Yeppoon and Great Keppel Island, but November in Queensland brings storms, and boy did we get some. We had storms in nearly every port we stopped in, and this particular storm that was starting to brew at Great Keppel Island was an absolute doozy.
I cannot decide, 'cause I'm sober tonight. I cannot escape. I'm here to
We were once again up early to leave the Keppel Islands for Pancake Creek. The sunrise was spectacular as we sailed south with a 65 nautical mile trip ahead of us. It would take us about 10 hours. We were not alone as we had our good friends Peter and Janine on their catamaran Serendipity for company. We're always kept busy when we're on watch, keeping a lookout for ships that cross our path. After leaving Pancake Creek, we cruised through the Great Sandy Straits, stopping at Big Woody Island and Inskip Point. We had a fairly smooth crossing of Wide Bay Bar into Double Island Point. The lagoon was busy with many yachties plus dozens and dozens of four-wheel drive fanatics on the mainland.
still rolling the dice.
We took advantage of the nor'easter winds the following day as we left Double Island Point and sailed directly to Bribie Island bypassing Mooloolaba. From there we crossed Moreton Bay into Raby Bay Marina where we spent a whole week catching up with family.
I pray for the night to go easy on me. You keep blowing me out, I keep holding you in.
We left the Moreton Bay area and pushed on to the Gold Coast via the Knifer Passage, stopping at Tippler's Resort for one night. It was a very busy cruise through here, being passed very close by these power cats. Some a bit too close for our liking. Well, we're back in the broad water on the Gold Coast to wait for a weather window to cross the seaway. There was plenty of things that kept us entertained until we had that near perfect overnight sail. We said farewell to the Gold Coast as we crossed the seaway for an overnight 100 nautical mile sail to Yamba in New South Wales. No sooner we had crossed Yamba Bar, we were back across it the following morning as we pressed on to Coffs Harbour, Port Macquarie, Foster, Port Stephens and then eventually Sydney Harbour. The sail down the coast was awesome.
Coming into Coffs Harbour, the wind really picked up from the northwest and we had to get all the sails ready to roll because the wind was really starting to peak. We were doing about 12 knots at one stage coming into Coffs Harbour. We were really scooting.
The winds abated overnight and we awoke to this amazing sunrise that took us on our journey all the way down to Port Macquarie. We were just a few nautical miles from Sydney Harbour when a pod of bottlenose dolphins approached us to ride the bow and breach out of the water. We saw some heavy rain inshore that missed us on our approach through Sydney Heads. We navigated through the busy Sydney Harbour traffic, dodging ferries, before we dropped the anchor in our favourite spot being Rose Bay. It gives us the most beautiful view of Sydney Harbour Bridge. We tender across to Rose Bay Wharf to take a walk to Parisi's food hall. What I love about this place is the presentation of the fruit and veggie on the display shelves. Parisi's has the most amazing array of deli delights that are sourced from all over the world, though they are fairly steeply priced. It doesn't seem to deter shoppers as it's always busy. We decide to cruise around Sydney Harbour to check out some of the sights. Luna Park has been around since 1935. It is one of 2 amusement parks in the world that are protected by government legislation. Barangaroo is an area of central Sydney that was redeveloped for parklands, apartment building and a casino. The area was once used for fishing and hunting by the Aboriginal Cadigal people prior to colonial settlement. Time to head home to Jervis Bay. What a feeling it is to be homeward bound after sailing over 3,000 nautical miles these past 7 months. That's the end of our 2nd season. We hope to see you back for our 3rd season, which will be sailing of a different kind.